Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It's Friday, so let's see what news stories we can update and dump on you here on the Friday Dump of News. Sounds so bad. The Friday Dump. All right, let's go ahead and start with our headlines and then get into the news show. Today on Before Coffee. Families of Yorkshire divers who died on a Greece trip may never know what happened.
A record crowd shows buildup of Nebraska volleyball and women's sports.
Quarrel about contraction as Schiphol is escalating. U.S. threatens sanctions.
Elon Musk is silent as a man is sentenced to death in Saudi Arabia for a tweet.
Former guard at Nazi camp charged with being an accessory to murder.
And the Trump trial will become must-see. Squeal of Fortune once again for September 1st, 2023 edition of Before Coffee.
Leave it when I make it so I can set up all the bullshit on it, and then I have to click the one drop-down menu to make it not private. Yeah, there's like 20 things I have to do, and I can forget one every time. Oh shit! I put a thumbnail. Oh shit! I didn't put tags. Oh, I didn't do this. I didn't do that. Running a YouTube channel is harder than you think. Speaking
I didn't
of
say it was hard. I just said I had to go and do that yesterday.
Yeah. Speaking of difficulties, this is a article from Robin Vinter in North of England's correspondent. The families of the two men from Yorkshire who died on a scuba diving trip in Greece have been told they may never find out exactly what happened to their loved ones. A Hull coroner has said it is not possible to determine what caused the deaths of Dr. Vincent Hong, a consultant cardiothoracic anesthesiast, and Timothy Seville, a Huddersfield businessman who died within 3 days of each other on the same trip. Hong, 53, died on 27th of September 2019 while exploring the SS Verdigala, which lies off the Greek island of Key. A fellow diver told the inquest at the depth of 63 meters they noticed Dr. Hong had become entangled in his line and his mouthpiece had fallen out. CPR was carried out on the surface, but he died in a health center a short time later. 2 days after his death, Seville, 61, died on the same island while getting into trouble diving the HMHS Britannia, a sister ship of the Titanic, which was sunk during the First World War. A witness said less than 12 minutes into the 116-mile dive, meter dive, Seville appeared to have stopped on and his breathing equipment was no longer in his mouth. Seville also died in the health center after receiving CPR on the surface. Both men were very experienced scuba divers, and the inquest was told how they had trained for 2 years before the trip. A UK pathologist found high levels of carbon monoxide in the blood of both men, but had been let down by Greek authorities who failed to properly gather evidence. The coroner, Professor Paul Mark, said, recording an open verdict. He said, "Quite how Mr. Hong and Mr. Seville met their deaths cannot be determined on the evidence we have heard. We have gone to exhaustive lengths to determine the case of death in both cases. We have been let down by Greek authorities who did not take blood samples at the time of the test for carboxylic hemoglobin levels, or carbon monoxide in the blood, and did not examine the gas cylinders." Oh yeah, what if their gas was even oxygen? They were breathing carbon dioxide the whole time. He added, "I appreciate how difficult this has been for both families losing loved ones to activities they loved and were excellent at. The fact there were 2 deaths in 3 days is not lost on me. Whether this was a coincidence or something else, I cannot determine." The diving company Key Divers has been charged with negligent manslaughter and will stand trial in Athens in January. The widows of the men, Lily Young and Liz Seville, will give statements at the Greek hearing. Bill said, "I'm honestly not sure whether we'll get answers of actually what killed them but hopefully we'll get some concessions over what we want done better. They hope that divers be warned about the dangers of carbon monoxide, that defibrillators would be made available on diving boats. Jung said, "We are happy with the inquest and have finally got some explanation, even if it's not exactly what caused their deaths." Here's my short story on an update on divers dying 3 days apart. How odd. Is it just a probability nightmare? Just statistics activating, you know? Probability of you dying on a diving thing is higher than you think, I guess.
Yeah. Well, in more recreational sports related news, I guess. Bad segue. This is a record crowd shows up for Nebraska volleyball game. Nebraska garnered more than 92,000 fans for a regular season match held at its football stadium. As Nebraska women's volleyball team strolled out of the tunnel, this is from New York Times, from Santul Narkar. As the Nebraska women's volleyball team strolled out into the tunnel for its most unusual home match, Sirius by the Alan Parsons Project, the walkout song of the 1990 Chicago Bulls, blared over the stadium loudspeaker. The musical choice was symbolic, to be sure, but it might have actually understated the aura surrounding the team in its big moment. The Cornhuskers, five-time NCAA champions, were about to surgically dispatch an overmatched opponent, the University of Nebraska-Omaha, but that was a foregone conclusion. The only suspense on Wednesday was whether the match would set a record for the world's most attended women's sporting event. After the second set concluded with Nebraska well on its way to a victory, the public address announcer declared just that, a reported attendance of 92,003 people. That broke the American record, 90,185. Set in 1999 Women's World Cup final between the United States and China at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California, as well as the international mark set on April 22, Champions League match at Barcelona, Spain between FC Barcelona and Wolfsburg that was attended by 91,648 people. "I love volleyball," said Dylan Folda, senior at Nebraska, who attended the event, which also featured an exhibition match between two Division II programs in Nebraska. "They're successful here and are always fun to watch every year." The event resembled a full-day party for the state of Nebraska. Fans packed downtown Lincoln before noon, made their way to Memorial Stadium hours before the Cornhuskers made their entrance, many carrying signs of support for their team. Beer, which is normally not sold during football games, was flowing, and vendors surrounded the stadium trying to capitalize on the mania. At a moment when the dominant issue in college sports is conference league alignment and football, Nebraska's volleyball days served as an example of a growing realization among universities that investing in women's sports can be great for business. More and more athletic programs are seeing gains from women's sports that challenge the outdated notion that there isn't enough demand to make women's programs financially sustainable. Now, business opportunities have manifested many times in gimmicky ways previously seen mainly in men's sports. For instance, recall basketball games played on aircraft carriers. The Iowa women's basketball team will host its own outdoor event on a football field this October, a scrimmage against DePaul that will highlight its star guard Caitlin Clark. The Oklahoma softball team held a series of inter-squad scrimmages last October, treating its home crowd to a barrage of home runs before winning its third consecutive Women's College World Series title. According to Patrick Reich, the director of sports business programming at Washington University in St. Louis, rules allowing athletes to make money off their name, image, and likeness, which is known as NIL, as well as shifting societal views on gender equity, have contributed to a greater investment in women's sports, leading to events like Volleyball Day. Not every Division I school has the same set of circumstances that will allow it to conjure what Nebraska has with its volleyball team. The state has no major professional sports teams, and the football program for its flagship university enjoys a near monopoly on college sports fandom. As Husker fans, and in parentheses it says, ask Husker fans about Fairweather fans of Creighton men's basketball. Well, Creighton is a college in Omaha. a Jesuit college that's really good at basketball. All of a sudden, in the last few years, they've been making, strides. But fair weather fans have flocked to their games, right? According to the public records obtained by the Lincoln Journal-Star, just one of 522 women's sports programs at public universities, 6 major conferences, turned a profit in 2022. That one program was Nebraska's volleyball. In Lincoln, an immediate catalyst for Volleyball Day was competitive fire. The previous attendance record for the sport also belonged to Nebraska, but it came by way of a loss to Wisconsin, the 2021 National Championship match at Columbus, Ohio, which 18,000 people attended. Motivated by that defeat and boosted by a loyal fan base, and even the state's governor, Jim Pillen, the school made the plan to break not just the NCAA volleyball attendance mark, but the record for all women's sports globally. The seeds of the event were planted all the way back in early 1990s. At that time, Husker football reigned supreme at Lincoln, and the team won 3 national championships in 4 seasons, forging a legacy that still resonates throughout college football, and certainly for Nebraskans in all corners of the state. Husker fans pined for those days. They pined for them. As for the football program, has made 3 coaching changes in its last 10-win season. Since its last 10-win season, and has not won a bowl game since 2015. For fans of Memorial Stadium on Wednesday, Nebraska volleyball is more than a vehicle for entering the record books. Supporting Cornhusker sports ran in their blood. It's just like a family thing, said Zainab Funah, a sophomore at Nebraska from Lincoln, who is a member of the track and field team. I grew up watching volleyball, football, basketball, everything in Nebraska. Trev Alberts, Nebraska's athletic director, said in an interview that the volleyball coach in those days wanted to capitalize on the fervor for football. So Nebraska led many football fans into volleyball matches for free if they showed their football tickets, with the events often happening in succession and near one another in Lincoln. But as the volleyball team continued to win, capturing its first national championship in 1995, before winning 4 more in the new millennium, that free lunch vanished. Now, good luck finding volleyball tickets in Nebraska. The demand has been resounding for fans who want season tickets and have to navigate a long waiting list. The Nebraska volleyball team has led the sport in average attendance, more than 8,000 every season since 2013, when it moved to a new, larger arena. Not counting the pandemic-affected 2020 season, many of its athletes have also benefited from loose rules on endorsements. Okay, so that's about it. We're a few more paragraphs, but that covers it.
Okay, wow.
Big sporting events, women's sports, and to tell you the truth, I'd rather watch women's basketball than the NBA, because the NBA is just a 3-point shooting contest, and the regular season makes no difference whatsoever. They play an entire season just so some team that stinks can get to the finals. I mean, that team that stunk during the entire season, like, why did you even play the season? It's a waste of time. And the games were boring, all of them. All the games are boring. Like, even the playoff games are boring. They turned into a boring 3-point shooting contest. Women play more fundamentally. But anyway, your story.
Okay, in choral news, 2 people getting in a fight, or I should say 2 different bodies are getting into a fight because Schiphol in the U.S. having a little tiff, and the U.S. is threatening with sanctions. This is from NOS News. Until the very end, the discussion rages on whether or not to shrink Schiphol. On the day that the cabinet has to send decisions for the maximum number of flights to Europe at the airport, various plans have been shelved. Various media report that the cabinet is announcing this afternoon that Schiphol may facilitate a maximum of 460,000 flights per year from next spring and 452,000 from November 2024. Insiders also confirmed this number to the NOS. That is more than the previously suggested 440,000. Strikingly enough, a proposal from Schiphol itself to stop private jets and night flights has been pushed aside by The Hague, the Volkskrant reports, based on sources. I would love for them to stop private jets in general. Not even just Schiphol, but the entire world.
Well,
should just stop private jets.
I want to fly commercially with a bunch of rich assholes. Let them have their private
Well, they
jets.
have first class.
No! They'll just make flights take longer to board. Sorry.
At the same time, the United States is increasing the pressure to not to do anything about the current number of 500,000 flight movements at Schiphol for the time being. Otherwise, the U.S. Ministry of Transport threatens to make a cooperation between Dutch and U.S. airlines more difficult, the Telegraph reports. Quotes from the letter sent to the Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management and various MPs are included. According to the Americans, the subject could be declared controversial now that the cabinet is outgoing. If flights are cancelled, KLM could have less access to American airports as a countermeasure. The Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management confirms receipt of the letter by Washington to NOS. We are in contact and we'll also need to send a reply, says the spokesperson. KLM Director Marjan Rintel says to the Telegraph that she is familiar with the position that the Netherlands cannot simply deny American Airlines access to Schiphol. A spokesperson for KLM says that it will not provide a detailed response until later today when the cabinet plans are official. Schiphol did not want to provide any further explanation this morning about the media publications on the contracts. The airport wants to wait until after the Council of Ministers. The interest group of travel organizers, the ANVR, on the other hand, does make an urgent appeal to the House of Representatives and the Cabinet to declare the shrinkage of Schiphol controversial. The ANVR calls it irresponsible to take such drastic decision in a caretaker status. Director Frank Oostdam also wants to give voters a voice, referring to the early parliamentary election at the end of November. So, they're reducing flights from the U.S., probably to save on global warming or climate change or something, reduce fuel, other things, right? They're trying to reduce their international flights, and the U.S. is like, how dare you do that? We will fly where we'd like to, and you can't stop us, or we'll bomb The Hague, or something. I don't know. They probably didn't say that.
Private jets can famously land where they want to. They don't have to land at major airports. They can land at small airports. That's why you fly private jets. Yeah. So you don't have to deal with the riffraff at the airports.
But most airports have a VIP service anyways. That will basically
speaking
get
as riffraff,
you through the airport without ever seeing anybody.
But speaking as riffraff, I'd prefer them rich people just go do their rich people thing. So when we have our French-style revolution, we can find them a lot easier. They're not mingling with us, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we get the, sharpening up the old guillotine blade. All right, bring him on. Shh. We found him easy. He was at the private jet. He was at the private jet hangar at the small regional airport. We were easy to find the rich people. All right. Not giving away our plans or anything, but we're going to overthrow these rich cocksuckers real soon. Sorry. Speaking of rich assholes ain't worth shit, Elon Musk is totally silent on Twitter. User being sentenced to death. Nothing from Elon Musk, who comments on everything that ever happens to his buddy Trump. According to an August, this is from the Newsweek, Nick Reynolds. Elon Musk silent on man sentenced to death for his tweets is the headline. According to the August 29th news release by Human Rights Watch, a civil rights non-governmental organization based in New York City, a 54-year-old retired Saudi teacher, Mohammed Al-Ghamdi, was sentenced to death this year by a Saudi court on a series of charges related to his online political activism. Charges, according to the documents obtained by HRW, include describing the king of crown prince in a way that undermines religion or justice, supporting a terrorist ideology, communication with a terrorist entity, and a violation of Saudi law for publishing false news with the intention of executing a terrorist crime. Al-Ghamdi's trial judgment claims he used accounts on the Musk-owned platform S, formerly Twitter, X, as well as the Google-owned YouTube to commit his alleged crimes. Newsweek reached out to both platforms, which have yet to release a statement via email or comment. Musk's silence is particularly jarring given his self-professed commitment to free speech, which he often expresses in critiques of the U.S. government and institution as complicit as an Orwellian plot to restrict free speech. See, the U.S. government, which actually has free speech in our Constitution, which you can go to court and get yourself, hey, I got free speech. Saudi Arabia, which doesn't have free speech whatsoever, chopped your hands off for stealing things and doesn't let women drive. They're totally fine with Elon Musk. That was my editorial. After purchasing the social media platform, Musk notably allowed several right-leaning journalists unfettered access to company documents and files in an effort to prove the previous regime had worked closely with the U.S. government to restrict the content share. Okay, you're a private company, dude. You don't have to get free speech. Get over yourself. If they were suppressing people, it was because they were dangerous. They've been proven dangerous. Remember the Capitol thing a couple years ago when he stormed the Capitol? They're dangerous. Elon Musk is terrible. But his reluctance, more editorializing, but his reluctance to comment stands out given a pledge Musk made this month that the platform covered the legal costs of anyone who gets in trouble with their boss for the activity on the social media platform. No limit, he wrote. Some online have alleged his reluctance to wade into Al Ghamdi's case could stem from his close and long-standing financial connections to the Saudi royal family. Oh, is that it? They have money? Oh, that's right. Free speech doesn't matter if you have money. In January, Musk testified at a federal courtroom in San Francisco in connection with a class action lawsuit from investors in his car company, Tesla, about a pair of tweets that Musk posted on August 7, 2018, suggesting that he had financial backing to take the company private, even though he did not. Musk later said in the court date that he believed he had secured the financial backing he needed to take Tesla private, following a series of 2018 meetings with representatives from Saudi Arabia's public investment fund that ultimately fell through. Do you know what they did with that public investment fund? They went there and they bought them some professional golfers. That's what they did with it. Oh yeah, that's exactly what they did with that money. Instead of giving it to Elon, they gave it to golfers. But Musk is also tied to Saudi Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, who became the second largest shareholder of Twitter in the same day. Musk closed the deal to purchase the platform. So looky here, member of the royal family is owning Twitter. Wow, how is that possible? Part owner of Twitter. The prince, a top shareholder in the previous regime of Twitter and a former Musk critic, was never guaranteed supporter of the deal and previously threatened to vote against the sale in a tweet criticizing it. Musk, however, questioned the motivations for opposing it on his own retort. At the time, Twitter was still reeling from revelations contained in a criminal complaint by the FBI that Twitter employee Ali Al-Zabara spied for the Saudi Arabian government inside Twitter for as long as 7 years, while Saudi Arabian citizens are subject to strict content moderation by the Saudi government. What are the kingdom's views on journalistic freedom of speech? Musk asked at the time. Less than 1 month later, the prince was on board. Musk's silence is particularly jarring given his self-professed commitment to free speech, which he often expresses in critiques of the U.S. government and institution as well as other people. It's all about free speech on X. These are tweets we are reading. It's all about free speech on X until people start criticism. X and any other topic. People who scream about free speech almost never actually care about the principle itself. For Musk, Twitter has never been about free speech at all. It's about free speech for him. Everyone else can all pound sand. Musk, being a fan of Mars colonization, is most assuredly a fan of The Expanse. I suspect Musk, it's hard to say. I suspect Musk sees as his role model Martian Admiral Winston Duarte takes advantage of the proto-molecule to enhance himself, and once the empowered, establish a multi-planetary military dictatorship. So these go on. Free speech is being allowed to express my opinion as my personal opinion. When social media sites allow people to post unverified information and theories as fact that promotes hate, death, and destruction. J6 is a perfect example. COVID is another example. People were injured and died because they believed false information. Elon Musk is all about free speech. Now that he bought his corner of free speech is for others, well, they have to buy their own. Right-wing free speech means that I don't even know what that even says. Okay, well anyway, there's a bunch of tweets on them, tearing them down, saying, "Hey Elon, whatever happened to free speech? How come this guy is being put to death?" Not a whole lot of detail on this poor sucker, but there we are. Oh, you know what I was reading? I was reading the letters to the editor.
The letters, yeah.
That's right. Right on.
So,
your story.
Oh, sorry.
Your story.
Oh, what were you going to say?
Nothing. I said your story.
Oh, okay. Yet again, rich people are just complete and total liars, really. They're just con men. All rich people have to con people to get money. They have to extradite. They have to use people. None of them are trustworthy. Never trust a rich person.
Yep.
They're only looking out for themselves and acting like they're your best friends so that you don't murder them later. And that's
if you believe in a devil, you probably should consider them to be the devil.
Yeah.
Oh, and we must, before we go any further, spin the Squeal of Fortune. We have not spun it yet.
Oh, right. We forgot about that.
Yeah.
All right. Squeal of Fortune. Put it on
Get
the
ready.
screen now.
Squeal of Fortune.
All right.
And who's our lucky winner
Fortune.
today?
I'm spinning the wheel.
Right on. Happy
And
anticipation.
we are looking at Robert Cheeley.
Robert Cheeley is today's lucky contestant on Squeal of Fortune. Your story.
Okay, in my next story, we're looking at a former guard at a Nazi camp who at the age of 98 years old is finally being charged with accessory to murder. I don't know why. At this point, just, okay, we know you did it. Or you did something.
Vengeance is
You're
ours.
98. This is from Associated Press in Berlin. A 98-year-old man has been charged in Germany with being accessory to murder as a guard at the Nazis' Sachsenhausen concentration camp between 1943 and 1945. German citizen, a resident of Main-Kinzig County near Frankfurt, is accused of having supported the cruel and malicious killings of thousands of prisoners as a member of the SS Guard detail. Prosecutors in Gießen said they did not release the suspect's name. Yeah, God forbid people start threatening a 98-year-old man, but I guess it could happen. The man is charged with more than 3,300 counts of being an accessory to murder between July 1943 and February 1945. The indictment was filed at the state court in Hanau, which will decide whether to send the case to trial. If it does, the man will be tried under juvenile law, taking account of his age and the time of the alleged crimes. Prosecutors said a report by a psychiatric expert last October found that the suspect was fit to stand trial, at least in a limited basis. German prosecutors have brought several cases under precedent set in the recent years that allows for people who helped a Nazi camp function to be prosecuted as an accessory to the murders there without direct evidence that they participated in specific killing. Charges of murder and being an accessory to murder are not subject to statute of limitations under German law. More than 200,000 people were held at Sachsenhausen, north of Berlin, between 1936 and 1945. Tens of thousands died of starvation, disease, forced labor, and other causes. as well as through medical experiments and systematic SS extermination operations, including shootings, hangings, and gassings. The exact number of those killed vary, with the upper estimates of 100,000, though scholars suggest figures of 40,000 to 50,000 are likely to be more accurate. So, there's some news. I guess, for some reason, they're arresting a 90-year-old man for something that he's already freely lived his life through. Like, the point of committing a crime and then getting jailed for it is that you kind of lose your freedom because you did a crime, right? But if you've already had your freedom for 50 years, wait, longer than that. Sorry, I can't do math.
Here's what I tell you.
70 years, you've been completely free. Who cares? I hope people who get murdered at a concentration camp. Oh well.
I'll tell you why. In this day and age, where we want to pretend that Nazi Germany never happened, and most of the people that are around for it are dead now, almost all of them are, right? It's probably important to remind people that, hey, we can still prosecute you. You thought you got away with it. I think that's why it's important.
Like I said, it's symbolic, but it's not meaningful. It's not meaningful. Well, past that, it's just symbolic. I said,
laws are symbolic.
I'm just saying specifically what's happening here is that you can have somebody arrested because they happen to be in a place and they had no idea what was going on. They're a guard, right? They didn't say anything about who he is, so I could understand if he was part of the SS.
Willful ignorance is a thing.
But if he was just like some kid that they took off the street and said, hey, can you go guard the entrance to this facility? Okay. Well, I'm sorry, but we killed a bunch of people in there, and you are now on trial for that with no statute of limitations. That's also what's rubbing me the wrong way, because that's not just for Nazis, that's for everybody, ever.
It's also guilt, American guilt, French guilt, any guilt, because if you watch, there's a documentary that Ken Burns did on the America and the Holocaust. We knew what was going on in 1933. We did. We just didn't care. So we spent all that time knowing this shit was going on, and then pretended that we discovered it at the end of World War II when we liberated camps. That's when we discovered it was actually happening. It was willful ignorance, and it was willful ignorance by people who lived in those cities too, by the way. So they'd probably feel a lot of guilt, like their parents or grandparents or whatever now.
Also, Americans did the same thing with the Japanese.
They knew that concentration camp was on the edge of town the whole time. They just didn't do anything about it. Yep. That's what we're headed for in the United States, and that's the kind of thing we want to avoid. People just going on.
That in the United States.
I'm sorry?
We've already done that in the United States. You put everyone who was Asian in a concentration camp after Pearl Harbor. Not Japanese, Koreans, everyone who was Asian.
It wasn't as cruel as Germany. Not that I'm defending it.
No, nobody was getting murdered.
At a certain level, you can defend the fact that these Japanese Americans were being totally harassed in their everyday life, and the government was saying we're doing this for their own safety, which is not necessarily 100% true. But how many Japanese Americans are still being beaten up, killed, terrorized constantly where they lived?
Well, I mean, just
and I would have said, we're still Americans, we can deal with it. And I'm like, okay.
Same thing happened during COVID. A bunch of Chinese, Asian people were being attacked for, you spread a sickness throughout the world. You ruined my life. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I don't even know. Huh? I've never even been to China. I'm so American, I don't even know how long my family's been here, you know?
Yep. Xenophobia was taking over full. And we were, again, in the 1930s, denying that the Holocaust was happening. Or we knew it was happening and just like, who cares? Not happening here. Hitler's not a bad guy. Legitimately what they said. Okay.
Anyways, that's the end of my story.
Back on to fascist news. Who is Robert Cheeley?
Yeah, who is he?
Before we get on to the real news, who is Robert Cheeley? A Georgia lawyer and Trump ally facing charges. This is from copewb.in. Who is Robert Cheeley and why has he gained such notoriety in recent times? A Georgia lawyer, Robert Cheeley, has been thrust into the spotlight as a key figure implicated in the Georgia election interference indictment, emerging as an ally of Trump and presenting controversial video clips to legislators. Robert Cheeley's involvement has raised eyebrows and numerous questions. In this article, we delve into the specifics of the charges against him. Robert Cheeley finds himself charged with a violation of Georgia RICO Act. In addition, he faces conspiracy charges for impersonating a public officer, committing forgery in the first degree. His actions, particularly those involving video clips of election workers, so he's one of those scumbags that was trying to dox election workers, has made him a significant player in these unfolding events. Rotten hell, Robert Cheeley. Moratorializing people trying to dox election workers. Innocent people doing civil duty for low pay. Let's attack them. What a piece of shit this guy is. Another one of them. Robert Cheeley made headlines by presenting video clips of election workers at State Farm in Atlanta. These clips were not without controversy, as Cheeley alleged that workers were double or even triple counting votes. His promotion of these election fraud claims has added another layer to the intricate web of Georgia indictment. As a Trump campaign official, Robert Cheeley's ties to the former president are evident. Notably, he took the stage after Giuliani's testimony. During this appearance, he presented various assertions regarding the election, many of which have been viewed skeptically. Boy, is this written by a half-handed reporter. They're completely false, not many of which have been viewed skeptically. No, 100% of them were false. They don't get
sued by libel. That's just how you have to write.
Nope. This is how you sue. This is how you write when you don't want to make a point. In response to the charges, Robert Cheeley and his legal team have been somewhat circumspect. He has categorically denied any involvement in the election improprieties or legal actions. Such statements underline the complexities and intricacies of the case. Not really. It's pretty straightforward. Cheeley's actions and allegations do not exist in a vacuum. They form part of a broader context where 19 individuals, including Trump, have been charged in Georgia concerning alleged election interference scheme. Beyond the charges and controversy, Robert Cheeley is a legal professional. He's a partner in the Cheeley Law Group. While recent events have overshadowed much of his career, his long-standing practice in law provides essential context to the unfolding drama. Robert Cheeley's involvement in the Georgia election interference indictment showcases an intricate tapestry of politics, allegations, and legal battle. Facing multiple charges and being thrust into national conversation, Cheeley's story is emblematic of a tumultuous post-2020 election landscape. He is charged with the violation of the RICO Act, and that's basically it. This guy is just... even though he's a bit player, he was up there doxing people who are just doing their civic duty. And in a related story, short story, the Trump Georgia case will live stream on YouTube, judge says. That's right. The proceedings of the Georgia 2020 election RICO case involving Donald Trump and 18 other co-defendants will be streamed live on YouTube. The judge overseeing the case decided Thursday. The decision from Judge Scott McAfee comes in a court conference on how media will have access to the court proceedings. News stations, including 11 Alive, who is the author of this article, will be able to record inside the courtroom and stream proceedings. They will also feature on the Superior Court of Fulton County YouTube page of Judge McAfee. Proceedings overseen by Judge McAfee have regularly been streamed before. Typically, what is put on YouTube is the Zoom conference call that goes out with the proceedings. News stations will be able to stream their cameras, feature an overall view of the proceedings from inside the court. So there you go. Must-see TV during the writer's strike in October. It's going to be starting in Georgia.
Okay.
Hey.
In culture news, you know what we haven't talked about in a long time? AI.
Here? Oh,
and ChatGPT. And right now, Publishers Association is arguing for Sunak to protect works ingested by AI models. This is from Dan Milmo, the global technology editor at The Guardian. UK publishers have urged the Prime Minister to protect authors and other content makers' intellectual property rights as part of a summit on artificial intelligence. The intervention came as OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT chatbot, argued in a legal filing that authors suing the business over its use of their work to train powerful AI systems misconceived the scope of U.S. copyright law. A letter from the Publishers Association, which represents publishers of digital and print books as well as research journals and educational content, asked Rishi Sunak to make clear at the November summit that intellectual property laws must be respected when AI systems absorb content produced by the UK's creative industries. Generative AI tools such as ChatGPT, the term for technology that produces convincing text, images, and audio content from simple prompts, are trained on vast amounts of data taken from the internet, including work by published authors. In its letter, the Publisher Association said, "On behalf of our industry and the wider content industries, we ask that your government make a strong statement, either as part of or in parallel with your summit, to make clear that the UK intellectual property law should be respected when any content is ingested by AI systems and a license obtained in advance." Authors have been at the forefront of the protests at what they say is unlicensed use of their work to train chatbots. Sarah Silverman, Mona Wad, and Paul Tremblay are among those who are suing OpenAI over claims that the company had breached copyright laws by training its chatbot on novels without the permission of authors. This week, the OpenAI filed a response to the lawsuits, claiming that the use of copyright materials by innovators is transformative, does not violate copyright. In the UK, the government has backtracked on an initial proposal to allow AI developers to free use of copyrighted books and music for training AI models. The exemption was raised by the Intellectual Property Office in June 2022, but ministries have since rode back on it. In a report published on Wednesday, MPs said that the handling of the exemption proposal showed a clear lack of understanding of the needs of the UK's creative industries. The letter for publishers' trade body said the UK's world-leading creative industry should be supported in parallel with AI development. It pointed out to the research estimated the publishing industry would be worth £7 billion to the UK economy, while employing 70,000 people and supporting hundreds and thousands of authors. This government has rightly recognized the huge growth potential of the creative and tech sector, and that is best achieved at equal parts. We hope you will consider our requests and support your relevant government departments in taking action that will put in place the right business conditions for AI development in the UK, wrote Dan Conway, Chief Executive of the Publishers Association. A government spokesperson said ministers were committed to a balanced and pragmatic approach to the use of AI in creative industries. To support this, the Intellectual Property Office is working with AI firms and right holders to produce an agreement and guidance on copyright. This supports our ambition to make the UK a world leader in AI research and development, while making sure our copyright framework continues to promote and reward innovation and investment in UK's creative industries. So, it's so hard to talk about this because you have to understand how AI works. It's not actually, artificial is in the word.
It's not intuitive at all.
It's not creating new information. It's just copying a bunch of information and then synergizing it into new information that isn't exactly original, I suppose. But that is how humans work, right? We also take inspiration from our favorite authors or our favorite media sources and reuse it in our own point of view. But AI can't do that. If you were to feed it all of, give me a famous author. What's his name?
James Michener.
Yeah, if you were to give him all of that, the AI model would just be recreating that style over and over again, but like all the stories mixed up in different ways. And give it, my grandma says this, and then whatever. But
that's why it's important for us to point out now that all of our intelligence is human generated. Any intelligence we display.
Yeah.
If we have any intelligence whatsoever, if we display it at any time, it was created by us, not some machine.
But we'll see what happens, I guess, in 20 years or something when this is run its course, because we can only guess what will happen. And all art will be dead or something, and we'll all be zombies. I have no idea. Anyways, that's the end of my story.
we'll be fighting over some meaningless nonsense. Oh, that's what we do now. Okay. All right. In this day in history, we're going to that part. It's 1838, and American frontiersman William Clark has died. Yes, he shared the Meriwether Lewis, who was his partner, Lewis and Clark. He died in this day in 1838. In 1864, the Charlottetown Conference, the first of a series of meetings that ultimately led to the formation of the Dominion of Canada, convened in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island. So happy Charlottetown Conference Day, Canada. 1870, the French army suffered a decisive defeat at the Battle of Sedan in the Franco-German War, leading to the fall of France's Second Empire. Well, they had a battle in sedans. That's not a good plan.
Oh.
A sedan, that's a car. Anyway. 1875, American novelist Edgar Rice Burroughs, best known as the creator of Tarzan, was born. And 1914, the last known passenger pigeon, birds that once filled the skies of North America, died in Cincinnati, Ohio Zoo. So 1914, the passenger pigeon becomes extinct.
That's
1923, and they were hunted at will. That's why they're extinct. Passenger pigeons were so plentiful in the United States at one time. When they were migrating, you could look up at your sky for 3 days and never see the sun because of the passenger pigeons' migrations. There were that many of them, so they were a problem.
Well, I mean, the story of pigeons is so sad in general because they basically were bred to be messenger birds.
Yeah, but these weren't
the messenger ones.
Well, they're called passenger pigeons, but I think all pigeons are messengers. I think they all are. They're like homing.
Okay.
They have homing devices. But, these guys, I mean, a lot of birds are migratory. It's nothing exotic about birds being migratory. But it's just that there were so many of them and they vanished so fast.
Yeah.
1923, the great earthquake that struck Tokyo, Yokohama metropolitan area, the death toll from the shock was estimated at 142,800.
Wow.
And that was back before Japan had all these high rises. 1923. They had no high rises. Yeah. 1930, the Young Plan, the second renegotiation of Germany's World War I reparation payments, went into effect. Well, I bet you that was real popular in Germany. Probably led to the rise of Hitler. 1951, Australia, New Zealand, and the United States signed the ANZUS Pact, which probably ANZUS is just short for Australia and New Zealand, U.S. ANZUS. 1952, Life magazine published Ernest Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea, his last major work of fiction. It was also released as a book, and in 1953 won a Pulitzer Prize. Well, he looks young in this picture. He's Young Man in the Sea in this picture. 1954, the thriller Rear Window, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring James Stewart and Grace Kelly, opened in American theaters and became a film classic. In 1969, a group of young army officers led by Muammar al-Gaddafi deposed the king and made Libya a republic. Unfortunately, he became a dictator, which happens. 1972, Bobby Fischer defeated Boris Spassky to become the first native-born American to hold the title of World Chess Champion.
Wow.
Bobby Fischer, famous eccentric Bobby Fischer. 1980, due to poor health, Canadian activist Terry Fox, who had part of his leg amputated because of cancer, was forced to end his Marathon of Hope run across Canada to raise money for cancer research. It was later discovered that cancer had spread to his lungs and he died in 1981.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I remember him. He was running with one leg, raising money. 1985, in a search led by the American oceanographer Robert Ballard, the wreck of the Titanic was found on the ocean floor at a depth of 13,000 feet, and calamity has ensued since then. 2004, Chechen rebels seized a school in Belsan in North Ossetia, Russia. The siege, which ended 2 days later, resulted in the deaths of 330 people, the majority of them children. And it was mismanaged by Russia. They didn't care about killing children. The lethal combination and the featured event on this day, German invasion of Poland. Yes, this day in 1939. The lethal combination of German blitzkrieg tactics, French and British inactivity, and Soviet perfidy doomed Poland to swift defeat after Adolf Hitler invaded the country. And this day, 1939, it sparked World War II. And today's featured biography birthday, Carlo Gambino, American crime boss, was born on this day on September 1st, 1902. Not no other featuring him. Okay.
Crime boss.
Yeah. The guy who didn't want to work for a living. Yay! Rocky Marciano was born on this day in 1923.
Does anybody want to work for a living? Wait a minute. Let's stop there.
I'm just saying, crime. What is organized crime? People who just steal money from honest people. That's all they're doing. That's all they're doing. Okay. So, 1939, Rocky Marciano, American boxer, was born, so it's his 100th birthday. 1935, C.G. Ozawa, Japanese-American conductor, was born. 1938, Alan Dershowitz, American lawyer, was born. And 1950, American psychologist Phil McGraw, Dr. Phil, was born on this day. Happy birthday, Dr. Phil. He's 73 today.
Wow.
And what day is it today? It is National Food Bank Day. First Friday in September, National Food Bank. So donate that food,
donate some food.
Or if you're poor, sorry?
No, I said donate some food. Oh.
Yeah, and if you're poor, go get some food.
Mm-hmm.
National College Colors Day. So that fits right in with Nebraska and their volleyball thing.
Yeah.
Story. Their big red. It's National Chianti Day. So somebody notify Hannibal Lecter. It's time to have some liver and some fava beans. National Hotel, if you don't know that line, it's from that movie. What's it called? I forget the name of the movie. I remember the name, Hannibal Lecter. Anyway, it's from that movie with Hannibal Lecter, with Jodie Foster. National Hotel Employee Day. So be nice to your hotel employees, especially the maids. Their jobs suck. If it's a job you don't want to do, look at that person and go, I respect you. Do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for doing a job that, you really don't want to do either. National No Rhyme Nor Reason Day. No rhyme, no reason. Okay, so apparently we're going to have to click on that one and figure out what the hell that's about. And National Forgiveness Day, which forgiveness is good for your soul. It's National Burnt Ends Day. So that's a thing on brisket. If you eat brisket and you like the burnt ends, yeah.
I do love the burnt ends, even though I think it'll give me cancer. But
it's basically charcoal, yeah.
Yeah, so delicious.
It's National Chicken Boy Day, and then we have this picture of a giant man with a chicken head. So I'm not sure what Chicken Boy Day is about either. It's National Lazy Moms Day. All right, don't let that word get out. National Acne Positivity Day is our last one, and if you have acne and you feel bad about it, don't feel bad about it. You're just swell. You're just decorated. That's all.
I'm washing my face, but it just keeps growing. I don't know.
There's no reason for zits. They just happen.
Yeah.
National No Rhyme No Reason Day on September 1st recognizes words that do not rhyme with any other words in English language. Orange. That's why there's a picture of an orange. That's why nothing rhymes with orange. We have to invent a word. Chlorange. There, I just invented a word. To chlorange is to sneeze and fart at the same time. It's called a chlorange. There you go.
Okay. Well, that has been...
Oh, wait, here? National Chicken Boy. We got to investigate what that's about. National Chicken Boy honors the birthday of an interesting statue in California, and it's a Chicken Boy stands 22 feet tall and holds a bucket of chicken. The fiberglass statue of a boy with a chicken head can be seen along Route 66. He's named after the former 1960s Chicken Boy restaurant, also known as the Statue of Liberty of Los Angeles. There you go.
Yeah, we are free to consume fried chicken.
Yay, Chicken Boy. Yay, giant mutant.
You may take our wings, but you can't take our breasts. Anyways, this has been Allison from the Netherlands, who will be hopefully seeing you in Paris on Monday. I have no idea what we're going to do, what our plans are, but we will try to continue doing before coffee as we go on holiday, do stuff.
Next week is a Europe tour.
Yeah,
we're just not going to report on the news. We're gonna possibly witness news and say, this is what's going on in this city today. Paris is having, the International Fling Your Snot Day or something. I don't know.
Anyways, we'll see you when we see you. Have a good weekend.
And happy September to everybody as the Northern Hemisphere cools off finally. On September 1st, 2023 edition of Before Coffee. Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.